Hey, Caylee. How you doing? Nice
Hey,
to have you
Greg.
again.
Nice to have you too.
Yeah,
Tuesday tune-up.
it is
It's a
Tuesday
great
Tuneup.
start to the day.
Where do we find you? I see trees in the background.
Yeah, well, we're dropping Zoe off at bike camp, and it's a tune-up from the car.
Perfect. Well, it's appropriate. Okay, so today we're going to talk about the difference between do we add a COVID fee or do we increase prices? Because we're looking at recovering financially after this crisis. So let's just unpack those two things. Just to kind of define what they are. A COVID fee would be a separate line item on the checkout when people leave that would basically indicate that an extra fee has been added on to the service or the visit, whereas a price increase doesn't do that. It just takes your whole price menu and adds either portions of or the entire thing and changes the price structure of your entire service menu. So let's just go through those two. So Caylee, tell us about how each one of those can affect an organization financially.
Right. Great question. And I'll just let you know, first of all, I'm a big fan of the COVID fee, and I'll tell you why. Two reasons. So think about when they put in the toll booth at the Coquihalla. You paid the toll every time you used the road, and when it was fully paid for, they removed the toll booth. And so I think, in these times, it gives you a little bit more. Last week, we talked about supply and demand. And so the COVID fee gives you a little bit more wiggle room to react to supply and demand. So right now, salons it's like Christmas, right? They're just seeing a ton of demand. And so now's the time where you can recover some of those lost funds through the COVID fee, and you can articulate to your clients that it's temporary. It's just to recover, pay for all of the extra sanitary stuff, cleaning supplies, extra time it's taking. And then when you notice a decline, because I'm pretty sure it's going to have a decline, when all of this settles and people got their first, I hope not. I want to be optimistic.
Yeah,
but
me too.
Just, at some point, if you could avoid it by pre-booking really well, some good pre-booking strategies. But it does give you a tool in your back pocket that you could send an email out to your clients saying, thank you so much for your support. It's really helped us stabilize and make a sustainable business. And we're now removing the COVID fee. So, if you just raise your prices, you can't do that. You've just raised them. And if the market doesn't react well to it, now you're into discounting and all of that, which I don't really like that. The second reason is, where was I going to go with that? Give me a second. The COVID, the second reason is that it's going straight to the house. And what I mean by that is you're not paying commission to your stylist. So if you just go and raise your team's prices, now you're paying commission out on that. And so it's going to take you longer to recover than if you just do a fee that's going right to the business. And what's interesting and what I've seen is the public are so generous and they're coming in and they're tipping like crazy. Like I've heard about crazy tips happening, but unfortunately it's going to the wrong person, right? The stylist, had support while they were off. It's great. It's friendly. Like I love that the stylists are getting more money, but it's the owner that's been hit hard, and the tip doesn't go to the owner. It doesn't help where the help is needed. And so the COVID fee goes straight to the business to help the business recover, whereas a price increase gets divvied up, and it's going to be a longer road to recovery.
Super interesting. Never really thought of that in that COVID fee goes to the house, right? And it's separate, and it's okay. Really interesting. So with that in mind, Caylee, is it more predictable then? Is the COVID fee more predictable in terms of financial recovery? In other words, could you lay out the number of services you expect to provide, multiply it by your COVID fee, and have your sort of pot of cash at the end, for lack of a better word? Is it just more predictable?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like when we do in the Profit Project, we do a 1-year profit plan. And with my clients, we've been able to tweak their COVID fee to find out exactly what number is going to recover. And I know the survey that you did last week that you published was saying, some were $5, some were $7+. And, if they're really looking at their numbers, they can figure out exactly what that number is based on how many clients they expect to see and figure out exactly what's going to help their business recover. So that's where, I urge people not to just pick a number out of a hat, but really look at their financials, because yes, it is very predictable.
Yeah, we did actually find a bit of that in our surveys, that people were just sort of picking a number out of a hat. Nobody really replied saying, I met with my accountant, I figured everything out. It's got to be $3.21 exactly for the next 14 and a half months. None of that. So I think maybe people are kind of jumping into a little bit. They're not really considering like a mathematical way to dig themselves out of this hole. Would you agree that that's a common thing in the business?
Completely. I would agree. They're comparing to the salons around them. They're doing things just because someone else is doing it. And it doesn't mean that person you're following has thought it through very well. My clients who have added the COVID fee have had there's always one or two clients that will comment. And as long as you're prepared, they're just testing you, right? As long as you're prepared with a script. And so the script that we gave them is, it's just there to create a sustainable business. And so that we're here for you in the future. And, once you say that, they're like, okay, got it. They're not gonna, what
Right.
can you say to that? Right. So yeah, I think that a lot of people are just following each other. I think in the next 6 months, we're going to really see the difference between the salons that have been proactive about learning their numbers and the salons that haven't. And when I say that, I mean, a lot of them have got the $40,000 loan. They still have money in the bank. They haven't realized what's eating into that, and it will catch up. 6 months from now, it's going to catch up if they haven't been really like looking forward. And that's through the profit plan, right? Looking exactly where you're going to be a year from now with the predictions that you can make based on past information.
Well, we are going to see that because in our survey, 33% of salons, so fully 1/3, so 1 out of 3 said, I'm not doing anything. No increases, no price changes whatsoever. I'm just going to hold my breath underwater. So should be interesting, right?
Yeah. And so those people, if you're watching this and that's you, just to share a story of one of my clients, we did her profit plan. We just closed her for 3 months in the profit plan. And then we opened her, just numbers wise, opened her exactly how she had operated previously. And that would have taken her 33 months to break even again, just to recover on those 3 months. So with the COVID fee, with some tweaks to other expenses, we brought that down to like 3-4 months, she'll be profitable again. And that you can't go back and do that. Like you have to do that ahead of time. And so if you're in that 30% who answered, I'm doing nothing, I'm just sitting back and watching, I encourage you to get a profit plan. Whether you do that with your accountant, whether you do it through the profit project that we offer, a friend that knows numbers well, just make sure you do it and make the adjustments that need to be made.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Can't agree more. Okay, 2 quick questions. So Nancy wrote to us, I was due to raise my prices anyway, so I took the opportunity to put them up about 10% after 5 years of not doing anything. Caylee, what's the danger in sort of taking this opportunity to put up prices, and what does it say about prices not being raised for 5 years?
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone's using this opportunity to catch up on some bad practices anyway, right? Like
Bad
it's
habits.
just a good excuse.
Yeah.
It's just a good excuse to be like, okay, now it's closed, I have to recoup. So I don't know, like that doesn't bother me as long as you continue it, right? Do it every year now and really like learn from this and realize, I think the clients will understand, okay, she's due for an increase anyway. Now she's been hit, so that it's probably understandable that she raised the price. Maybe she didn't even raise it enough if it hasn't been raised for 5 years. 10%, maybe is not enough.
Right.
But just, I like, there's 2 reasons you should raise prices. There's an inflation price increase that should happen every year, no matter what. And to do that, you just Google the inflation rate in the province you're in, and add a % or 2, because everybody's adding a % or 2. So if you don't add a % or 2, you're still getting behind, right? And so that's just going to keep you even. And then there's a supply and demand price increase. And so basically you decide on a productivity number. So productivity is the amount of booked time in your bookable time. So if I'm going to work an 8-hour day and I have 6 hours worth of clients, I don't know, is that 80%?
I think it's 80%, yeah.
80% productivity, right? So that's how you figure that out. And so you can pick a number that every time I hit 90% or 80% or 100%, then I'm going to raise my prices. And what that does is it stops you from overworking.
Interesting.
Right? And it keeps you up with your market. And if a few drop off, it gives you room for new ideal clients. It gives you a bit of space in your schedule where you can do social media, you can do marketing,
Right.
you can start to attract a higher level client. Quick story, one of my stylists, Jessie, she told me I can share this anytime. She was 117% productive. 107.
Wow.
What does that mean?
Wow.
She's working overtime all the time. Yeah. And she's a rock star, right? She's like an amazing stylist. She works at Craft Academy. She was rocking it. I had to push her every 3 months to raise her prices. And she went to 110%, 101%, 95%. And then we thought, okay, let's stabilize here at 95. But it got her lifestyle back. She had time to play soccer, to be with her fiance. It's just life-changing. Like this is the way you have to pivot to stay on top of your game.
Absolutely. Can't agree more. Okay, so one more question here. Jay, not that person's real name, wrote, I don't like the sound of a COVID fee. It sounds negative, but I need to make up for my losses. What can I call it, or what can I do? Help, please.
Ooh, well, I'm not the most creative wordsmith. I'm kind of the numbers girl, but I think you could have fun with it and brainstorm, like salon recovery fee. Right. Like here, that's kind of a dry name, but you guys are like, you're in the creative industry, so make it fun. You can call it whatever you want. Make it funny, right? Can you think of, Greg, you're kind of a funny guy off the cuff. Can you think of any
funny looking. No, I don't, something I totally agree. You've got to be creative, and it really depends on your salon. If you're sort of a very spa-like place, you could call it like the Serenity. I don't know, something. You have to think about who you are and what your brand is, and fortify your brand with anything you do. It doesn't matter what it is, whether it's the color of your logo, the shape of your business cards, or what you have to call these very necessary tools to make things work for you. So yeah, we're happy to help.
Yeah, and I'd love to share. Do we have time for one quick story again?
Yeah.
So two of my clients, they've been open for a month now. They've done the COVID fee, and they're like, oh my gosh, we've never had so much money in the bank. Like all the changes we made are working so well. They're just like, they're almost feeling guilty now because they're like, the business is working. Oh my gosh, like, what do we do? The business is working. And so I said, what can you do to celebrate your clients? And it doesn't have to be monetary, right? It doesn't have to be, you don't have to buy them something, but what could you do fun to celebrate your clients, to celebrate your teams? And I was thinking about Hapa Zakaya, the restaurant in Vancouver. I don't know if you've been in there, but you go in the door, they all like stop and greet you, right? In Japanese, like, and you're like, whoa, you're kind of blasted with this amazing greeting. And so I was like, you guys are like fun dudes. Like, think of something cool you can do to like welcome them in, celebrate them, and make it a fun experience. So I think, with all the creative minds out there, there's some unique things that you could add to give a quick win. Like you're asking for something extra. So like give them a quick win of like, whether it's a feeling of excitement, a feeling of gratitude, maybe it's even just a handwritten little note to your clients. Just try to think of something that you can do to give them also a quick win. And it's going to buffer, the blow of that additional fee.
Well, it's true. And, ever since we were small, we all went to go celebrate our friends' birthdays. It was one of our favorite things to do as children. So from that, just take that little psychological piece and say, we love to share other people's celebrations, special moments, whatever those are. And if a special moment is staying in business, retiring with dignity, being able to pay yourself a fair wage, and spending time with your kids, your family, whatever, then that should be celebrated.
Yeah, maybe you have balloons in the salon saying like, we're celebrating every day because we're open again, right? Like there's just there's endless things that you could do once you put that creative, like you take the fear hat off because everyone's operating out of fear and put that creative hat back on. And there's so many ways that you can reinvent your business right now.
Love it, Caylee. Always such a pleasure to chat with you for Tuneup Tuesdays.
Yeah.
We'll connect again next week.
I'll see you next week. Thanks, Greg. Bye,
Thanks,
everyone.
Caylee. Take care.